So trying to build a writing life that doesn't fit your writing brain is kind of like trying to train a cat with dog training techniques. All the rigid routines and the morning writing and the accountability groups and the join a writing group, be sure you do that. If that's not working for you, you may think that something's wrong with you, but most likely that's not the problem. It's just that your brain might work differently. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a powerful way of understanding your writing brain. I've identified 7 mindset types in my Master Writer Mindset System. And once you know yours, you'll finally understand why some strategies aren't working for you and be able to figure out which strategies will work for you. The shift most writers never make is that they don't necessarily need to become more disciplined. They need to become more aligned with their own mindset type. When your writing habits and your goals and your processes are built around someone else's system, some of those things may work for you, but some of them may not. And that can leave you feeling like you're failing, or maybe you're not cut out for this writing thing, when that isn't the problem. The problem is you're trying to force yourself into a system or a process that just isn't made for how your brain is wired. I remember when I was a young writer, I did not like to outline. And I went to a workshop where this very esteemed best-selling author was telling us all that if we didn't outline, we were just stupid. It was just a dumb way to go about things. And I remember feeling I'm doomed because I had tried outlining and I hated it, because if I outlined a story all the way to the end, I was no longer interested in writing it. And so I would fail repeatedly if I was trying to outline and then write, because I no longer had the desire to write. It wasn't until I heard another esteemed best-selling author talk about his process, and it did not include outlining at all. In fact, he actually said that outlining could take the creativity and the originality out of your work. When I heard those words, a light went on in my head. I finally realized that my way of doing things, or my natural desire as far as how I wanted to create, could be built upon and strengthened so that it would work for me, because it had obviously worked for this person who had experienced great success. So after I experienced that, then I realized that other writers perhaps were stuck because they hadn't seen that mirror of themselves yet. They hadn't seen another way to do things that could fit with their type of creativity. So recently I created the Master Writer Mindset Type System to help authors see that if something isn't working, it's not because they're not good enough or they're just not cut out for this. It might just be that they need to experiment a little bit more with how they're going about this whole thing. So today I'm excited to walk you through the 7 types that I've created, because just hearing about them may help you unlock something you've been missing. If you haven't yet taken my quiz, I invite you to do that now. You can go to the link below and in the description below. It's completely free. Take the quiz, find out what your type is, and you'll get your results, and start thinking a little bit more about your unique type of mindset in terms of how it affects your creativity and your writing. So the first mindset type is the seer. And if I were to describe this in just 3 words, it would be big picture visionary, intuitive, and future focused. So a seer is idea driven. This is the person who has always got more than enough ideas to pursue. In fact, this is the person who struggles to choose an idea to work on. They may jump from this one to this one to this one because they have so many and they want to pursue them all, and then they struggle to really get any of them through to completion. They're also the writer that is more theme focused. They see the big picture, the larger message of their work. So the nitty-gritty details may not be as inviting to them. They may struggle to get every little scene down because in their minds, the big picture is already there. The whole book is already in place. And so it can be difficult to translate that to the page. So here are the strengths of the seer. See if any of these sound familiar to you. Visionary thinking, deep intuition, and high creativity and concept generation. Big ideas. The struggles the seer has is finishing their projects, and you could lump into their choosing a project to finish, a feeling of overwhelm when they try to narrow their focus to just one idea, and a difficulty committing to that one direction. So seers thrive more when they understand this about themselves and can build habits that keep the vision alive and keep that excitement there about creating different ideas and enjoying that whole idea generation process, but processes that help gradually lead them toward actually completing whatever projects they have. Type number 2 is the story write. 3 words for this type are planner, strategist, and clarity seeker. Story writes feel best when they've got everything planned out. How the story's going to play out. They love outlines. They like following different story structures. They prefer for everything to be mapped out and under control even before they start. Where the story write struggles, they may spend so much time planning the story that they don't actually get around to getting the story written. And if the plan falls apart somehow, then everything can fall apart in their system. So the strengths of the story write are that they are organized, they love logic and structure, and they have a clear plan to follow through on. Where the story write struggles is in battling perfectionism, trying to get that plan just exactly right before they even start writing, having a sense of paralysis perhaps if the outline isn't going as well as they like, or if they feel like it's not perfect yet, they can be stuck in that spot and not actually get to the writing. And the biggest problem is probably the struggle to adapt mid-project if something goes wrong. A story write succeeds when they can build a system that helps them to plan just enough to allow them to get started. And it also helps if they find a way to let the creative process surprise them now and then and be able to adapt and adjust to that. Type 3 is the fire starter. 3 words to describe this type: high energy, passion-led, and intuitive sprints. Fire starters light up when they're inspired. This is the writer that when they're properly inspired can sit down and write for a week nonstop. This writer may not sleep, may not eat, while they're suitably inspired to actually get that story out. When they get absorbed in a project, it's almost like they're obsessed and nothing else exists. For the fire starter, the trouble comes when this energy disappears. When that flash of inspiration kind of starts to fade away, then they struggle to continue to work on this project because it no longer holds the same appeal for them. So the strengths of a fire starter are fast output, deep immersion into an idea when they are inspired, and passionate bursts of writing energy. The struggles of a fire starter are inconsistency. They may experience creative crashes where they're just exhausted after this intense work, and they may tend to fall victim to harsh self-talk when the inspiration fades and they're not still working as hard as they were. Fire starters need systems that help them manage this hot and cold type of inspiration as it comes and goes. They need a way to allow themselves to fully engage when the inspiration is high, but then they need to put in place some softer habits that allows them to continue to make at least some progress when they come down off of that inspiration high. Type 4 is the bastion. If I were to describe this type in 3 words, it would be steady, grounded, and systems driven. Bastions are builders. These are the writers who go step by step by step. They love that daily progress. They love seeing things come together little by little by little. These are the writers who keep track of their word counts, how much time they're spending on their writing every day. Maybe they have charts or graphs or calendars where they're making a mark to say, okay, I got my writing done today. They love that gentle, gradual process of building the story. Where bastions can get into trouble is when something disrupts that process. So something happens in their lives that pull them away from writing, or something disrupts their writing itself. Maybe they're struggling with the middle of a novel and suddenly they're not making that daily progress, and that can just blow their system apart. So the strengths of the bastion are consistency, long-term focus, and reliable routines. But the struggles that a bastion would have is getting into rigid thinking because they let their plans narrow them down a little too much sometimes. They may be resistant to change, which can be tough in today's world when things are changing so fast in the publishing industry. And they may struggle with burnout or loss of joy and inspiration, because sometimes that steady progress forward can get a little bit boring, or it can kind of sap out the novelty that a creative writer needs in their lives to continue to feel inspired to create. What a bastion needs is a process that allows them to make that steady progress, but that occasionally also helps them to get back into writing once they have an upset or a disruption, and one that also encourages them to celebrate every step they take forward and to now and then break out of that routine so that it doesn't become a rut. Type number 5 is the pathbreaker. 3 words to describe this type: freedom seeker, resist constraints, and bold. This writer likes to challenge the conventions. This is the writer who doesn't want to follow the rules that are out there that everybody else is touting. This writer may even want to go so far as to write cross-genre, or to break genre rules, or to just go completely out of the norm when it comes to how they're creating and what they're creating. Where they struggle is where they get a little bit so focused on not following any sort of rules or structure that they actually end up harming themselves when it comes to creating a process that can help them complete their stories. The strengths of the Pathbreaker: they're bold, creative, and original. They tend to bring out fresh ideas and strong perspectives, and they like to take risks that most writers may avoid. The Pathbreaker's struggles: a resistance to external rules or deadlines, losing steam on a project after the initial thrill of rebelling fades, and drifting between projects without clear goals. What the Pathbreaker needs is a system that allows them to be original, allows them to create their own rules, but then also helps them put processes in place that encourage them to finish the project and to occasionally let in some other advice or mentorship that'll help them reach their potential. Type 6 is the Spark Link. 3 words to describe this type: connector, community-driven, and meaning-driven. This is the writer who is inspired by purpose and people. This writer loves connection. They like experiencing shared creative energy. These are the writers that enjoy getting together with other writers just to sit and work on their projects. Where Spark Links can struggle is when they don't feel seen or supported. They tend to lose their focus if they don't have some sort of support system around them during the creative process. The strengths of a Spark Link: they're energized by collaborative effort and feedback, they're natural encouragers and supporters of other writers, and they find deeper meaning through shared connection and purpose. The struggles of a Spark Link is losing their motivation if writing feels lonely, or depending too heavily on outside validation to be able to continue, and finally struggling to stay focused on their work without regular accountability. What a Spark Link needs is a process that encourages them to connect with others and allows them to thrive in a connected atmosphere so that they don't drift or stall for too long. And the last type, type number 7, is the Heartsmith. 3 words to describe this type: emotionally driven, focused on transformation, and deep. This is the writer who loves taking powerful emotional experiences and translating them into powerful writing. They enjoy creating stories that have a deep meaning to them and that resonate deeply with readers. And they tend to write highly emotional scenes. Where they can struggle is when those emotional scenes just take too much out of them, or when it can feel like all that transforming of the high emotion into a story can just be too much to ask on a certain day, which can leave them not making progress on their stories. The strengths of the Heartsmith: they have deep emotional insight and intuition, they can craft layered, meaningful narratives, and their writing tends to resonate powerfully with readers. Where the Heartsmith struggles is when they might feel emotional overwhelm because of intense creative work, or they might get stuck if the emotions just feel too raw or too heavy, or they might struggle with perfectionism tied to self-worth. What the Heartsmith needs is a process that helps honor the meaning that they put into their work while allowing them to take breaks when they need to refuel and to recover from any strong emotional experiences they may have while writing. So now that you know about the 7 types, and maybe you've heard which one kind of fits you, or it could be more than one. Some people are a combination of 2 mindset types that seem to work together in their creative process. Whichever may be the case for you, now that you know a little bit about this, the question might be, what is the next step? What do you do with this knowledge? I have 2 powerful ways that you can start using it right away. The first one is to stop following advice that doesn't fit your type. So let's imagine that you're a fire starter, the person who gets inspired and then has these intense periods of writing. You want to stop forcing yourself into some slow daily word count requirement. You want to work more on fueling that inspiration so that you can then get on that train, ride it to the end, get as much work done as you possibly can, and then take that rest if you need it. If you're a bastion who thrives on regular progress and daily routines, you don't want to rely on systems that promote adrenaline or chaos, because that's going to go against your natural way of creating, and it's going to leave you burned out and exhausted. So we all need to let go of any advice or routines that we've been using that don't work for us. If whatever process you're using isn't helping you to get the book done, then that is probably not a process you want to keep trying to use. You want to try something else. The second thing you want to do with this information is to start designing a process that works with your brain. So you don't want to just copy routines that you hear other people talking about. I see all kinds of of videos on YouTube about, I tried this writing routine of such and such famous writer, or I tried this writing routine and here's how it worked. And these videos get tons of views on them because I think writers are just seeking that magical system that's going to help them finally finish their book. If a person is advocating a system and they have the same mindset as you, then maybe it will. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting with new systems, but we should never feel like one writing process or one writing routine is the way to do it or the way to success. There's only one way that's going to work for you, and you have to discover that. Every one of us is very different in how we approach creativity and how our mindsets work and what helps us to stay motivated and energized when it comes to approaching our work. So your mission of the week, if you choose to accept it. If you haven't taken the quiz yet, I recommend you do that so you at least know what your type is. The link is below, completely free. And then I would say this week, take one small step that favors your mindset type. So that might mean adjusting your writing schedule or simply giving yourself permission to rest. If you're a fire starter and you've really been at it, then maybe you need a couple days off. If you're a bastion and you haven't been keeping track of your daily progress, then maybe that's what you need, is a better tracking system. If you're a heartsmith and you are stalling, it could be perhaps that you're emotionally wrung out, or it could be that you're not tapping into your emotions enough in your work to inspire that momentum and energy. So think about one little thing you can do in your writing process and your writing routine, your daily writing life, that is going to favor your mindset type. Write that shift down you're going to try, give it a try, and then notice how it works. Collect data on yourself. This is kind of like doing self-experiments, because the more we know about how we work, the more successful we'll be as writers. Again, if you need more help, be sure to take the free quiz below. I also have a Master Writer Mindset Playbook. That playbook is packed with custom strategies, mindset rituals, and writing life tools based on your specific type. So you can stop guessing and build a system that actually works for you. The links to both of those are right below this video. So good luck, go take the quiz. If you haven't yet heard my first video in this series where I introduce this whole concept of writing mindset types, be sure to check that out on the end screen coming up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.